Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I am here today to share with you the books I plan on reading in May, otherwise known as my May TBR. Woohoo! I'm really excited to share all of these titles. There is quite a few of them. I am being a little ambitious this month. Actually, I think it ended up being the exact same amount of titles as last month, but in April I only finished about half of on my TBR. But, I think that's actually pretty normal for me. It's very, very rare for me to read all of the titles, so I'm trying to just be with well, that's how it works, so let's just work with that. So let's work with that. But before I get to it, I do also just want to say that I'm really excited to be back here on YouTube. I started with my April TBR, was my first video back, so it has officially been a whole month, at least a whole month of videos, even if it's not necessarily the date to the date. It's been really, really nice to be here and to be doing videos again, and I'm trying to find my rhythm again. I know I haven't done, I don't know if it feels like a lot or not a lot, or I don't know, so I'm trying to figure out what the best rhythm is for now. April was still quite a busy month for me. May, I think, should be a little bit lighter, and I do have some video ideas in the works for some bookish content and some non-bookish content, and so hopefully we'll have some fun stuff to enjoy through the month of May and beyond. So we shall see where things go, but for now, let's get to the books. I'm going to start off with my social reads, readathons, and buddy reads that I'm participating in, and then go to some of my project-based book choices. Is that a sentence? Project-based book choices. It is now. It probably needs at least one more word. Anyway, first up is a buddy read, and that is Gemina, the second book in the Illuminae files by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman. And this one I am buddy reading with Izzy, Punk Rock Girl PA, as well as Sarah and Roz have joined in for the Illuminae files. Yay! Hi Sarah, hi Roz. And I will leave links to their channels down below for you to check out. If you're unfamiliar with this series, it is a YA science fiction series that the books are in an epistolary style, so it's a collection of documents, be it IM messages or briefing notes or schematics or, diary entries, those kinds of things, and is very visually based, and so I actually do have the physical copy. It's made its way through quarantine, but I haven't. It's really heavy, so I thought it'd be easier to show it digitally. So if you would like to participate in the buddy read, you are of course welcome. I will leave links to everyone's channels down below, and Izzy is going to be doing the live show on, it's a Tuesday at the end of the month. I think it's the 26th. It's the day after the American holiday, because it's still a holiday, even though we're probably still not supposed to go out by that point. It's still a holiday. So yeah, and I'm really excited and looking forward to seeing where the story goes. I did enjoy the first book, so yeah, so this will be an interesting ride and see what happens next. I don't know. I'll have to read it to find out. So that's the first book. The next book is for the Readathon, and that is hosted by Alex Black and Abby Mack Reads, and the prompt for this month is second chances or DNFs. Now, I don't tend to DNF a lot, so there wasn't, and when I DNF pretty hard. So I was a little at loss of what to do for that, but I realized I have a hiatus shelf on Goodreads, and I found a title that was not only on that shelf, but is also on my oldest on Goodreads TBR. So I added it the first year I started Goodreads back in 2010, and for that I have The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stieg Larsson. This is the second book in what was originally called the Millennium Trilogy. I don't know what it's called now because they have continued to write more novels, even though the author is no longer writing them. I believe the author passed away. But yeah, so I read this back in the day. I think I started it in 2011, around when the films were out. I think I watched all the films and then started to read the books. I'm not sure. I did definitely read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and was really impressed by it. But this one I started midway through. It's a bit of a funny story. It's a bit of a long story, so I might leave it for another time. But yeah, so I very abruptly stopped reading this one and never came back to it. It is a mystery thriller, cyber thriller, crime revenge story. If you're unfamiliar, it's one of those things that I can't imagine someone not having heard of this, but that's because the films were so popular when they came out. But they are also very intense, and if you have any trigger warnings for anything, I tread lightly or research, because it does have a lot of strong content in it. At least the films do. I actually felt the films were more disturbing than the books. But the book, I only read the first book and then I got halfway through the second. And I don't remember it that well, and what I remember is some rather mundane stuff, but I do remember the character of Elizabeth Salander, because she is extraordinary, so I'm curious to see how this fares. I don't know if it makes any sense to go into a second book in a series 10 years later. We shall see how things go, but this is going to be my choice for the Readathon for my second chance. We will give it a second chance here 10 years later, and I'll eventually tell the story. What else am I reading? Oh, the letter K. Okay, so I'm really excited that there is a round of Alphabathon this month, and the letter in focus for the month is K. If you're unfamiliar, Alphabathon is a readathon that goes through the alphabet, and there are different, they started with A and now letter K. I missed one earlier this year, around earlier this year, so I'm so sad about that, but K is running from May 11th to May 17th, and then in the summer there is A to Z through 1 month, and then there is another, it was HIJKL. L will be later this year. All the information is on the Twitter account. I will leave a link to that down below for you to check out. And yeah, so I am going to do a separate TBR video for Alphabathon for round K. I've already picked out some titles, so I hope they fit the prompts. We shall see. Otherwise, I'm sure I have tons of stuff on Kindle. Yeah, I was a groaner. To also fill in some gaps. And so, so this is running from May 11th to the 17th. So I think my plan for the month is actually going to be finishing a whole bunch of stuff earlier in the month, and then starting with my Alphabathon titles when May 11th hits. So we shall see if that's what happens. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to be participating in that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm also going to be participating in the Manga Love Readathon that is hosted by Shay Geeks Out. This is going to be running May 18th to the 24th, so right afterwards. So I'm going to have 2 weeks in a row of readathons, and this is obviously a readathon that is all about manga. Title is the third volume of Descending Stories, which is a josei title that I started this year for the first time. It's actually the first josei title I've read. I had to do some digging and research. It just felt like that it wasn't the titles that were cropping up, or it wasn't the titles that were available, but this one was, and I've been reading it digitally through the library. Unfortunately, in April, I did not read any manga at all. So I'm very embarrassed about that and very saddened about that. I don't know what happened, other than I think I thought I'd be back at the library by this point, and then of course the libraries are closed because of COVID-19, so that just threw me off my game. So I'm just going to go back to some of the titles that I've been reading digitally, and then maybe come up with some new titles to enjoy. I think the prompts are very open. There is read a manga that has been recommended to you, and then read 1 volume a day. I think those are the prompts that they're going with. So I'll leave a link to Shay's channel as well as the Manga Live Readathon Twitter down below for you to check out, and I'm really looking forward to it, getting back to reading some manga. And now onto some project-y based things, or some random. This one's sort of like a bit of a project and a bit of random. It's just like, I want to read it, so let's just see where it fits. And that is Breathe by Tim Winton. This is, as far as I can tell, this is a contemporary novel. And I read, what did I read? Blueback by Tim Winton last year, and I absolutely loved it. And this has been made into a film. And normally I read book to film adaptations like when the film is still like in development or scheduled or to be released in the future, but this has already been made. But I still want to read it, and I have I think the film is on Hoopla, and they have increased their credits to 8 again this month, which is really nice. They were down to 4 earlier this year and last year, but with COVID-19, they have been increasing the credits here in Toronto, so that's really nice. Because and they have IP Man. or Ip Man 4 with Donnie Yen, and I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to watch it. The final movie. It's a martial arts film. Historical. It's historical. I don't need to qualify why I love it. I think just the fact that it's Donnie Yen is enough. Anyway, I'm totally off tangent. So, but Breathe is on Hoopla as well, and Ip Man. Is it? I always say I say it wrong, so I say IP Man, but it's really Ip Man. Anyway, it's based on the martial artist who taught Bruce Lee. Anyway, back to Breathe. So as far as I know, this is a contemporary fiction, maybe coming of age, Australian. I want to read it, so I'm going to read it this month. I don't really need a reason, just want to read it. So that is going to be that choice. And then also I am going to read, I can't wait for this, and that is The Frozen Menace by Ursula Vernon. This is the 11th book in the Dragonbreath series. It is the series finale. It's the last book in the series, and it features Danny the dragon and his friend Wendell, who's an iguana, and they go on adventures, and they help people, and they find monsters, or they save monsters, or they find out monsters aren't monsters. Like, it's just good fun adventure, animals, dragons, it's really fun. These are quite young books. They are illustrated. They're kids' books. I love them. This one took a while to come in, I think because of all the kids that are home. A lot of the holds on kids' books are a lot longer than they used to be because of, like, life. So it took me a while to get this one, so I need to read it before it expires and also finish off the series. I've really enjoyed the series. I randomly read the 10th book last year for a challenge, and then I just went back to the very beginning, and they've been very, very calming for me in terms of they're just good-hearted, fun adventure, and the illustrations are really, really nice. And yeah, so that is The Frozen Menace. Next, on to my stacking the series choices for the month. I did do 2 TBRs last month. I did sci-fi, fantasy, and weird stacking the series, as well as a video for my romance stacking the series. And all together, between all of those, and then they're going to be 3, and it's 3 stacks, 1 for sci-fi, fantasy, and weird, and 2 for romance. I decided to do 2 smaller stacks for romance because I don't know that many romance series I'm reading that are like more than 6 titles. So I did 2 stacks of 5, 1 historical and 1 paranormal romance or urban fantasy. So, and I'm bouncing between the 2. So I'm trying to read about 5 to 8, like really 8 to 10 a month for stacking the series, which is incredibly ambitious. So I think I'm probably landing more in the 5 to 8. I don't know. I just keep starting things and I hopefully finish them. But first I'm going to start with the ones that I haven't finished. So there's 3 that I'm carrying over from April that I haven't finished. First up is Swordmaker by Jennifer Roberson, and this is a fantasy series that features, I don't want to say too much about it because it's the 3rd in the series. I really love it. It is fantasy. It's a reread for me. I'm working towards finishing off the series. So, and I've talked about it a lot, and I just feel really like weirded out that I haven't finished this book and that it takes me so long, even though I love it. Every time I sit with it, I'm like, I love this book. I love this world. I love these characters. Why is it taking me so long? I don't know. Hopefully I will finish it in May. I also want to really finish Silver on the Tree by Susan Cooper. This was going to be my series finisher for last month. Didn't happen. It's a kid's book, fantasy series, but current like it's set in the real world, but there are fantastical elements and some mythic elements, and it's coming all together, the whole, like, you know, like it's the finale, and I think I'm resisting it being over, but I really need to finish it. I really want to finish it. It's been a rocky road for me. I didn't really enjoy the first 2 books, but the 3rd one it really picked up, and so I want to finish off the series, and I also want to finish it because there are several younger title fantasy-ish series on my stacking the series. So to start another one, I really want to finish this one. So I want to just get this title read and enjoy it, of course. April's been a hard month, and I think that's also been some of the resistance, is that I don't want to push through books that are good. Maybe that's it. Let's say that's it. But I do hope to finish this one and then get to another one of the series in my Stacking the Series. So Silver on the Tree. And then in terms of romance, the one that I started is Once Upon a Marquess. That sounds wrong. It really looks like Marquis or Marquess, but apparently it's Marcus. Anyway, this is the first in the Worst Saga by Courtney Milan. I started this, but I've only read about 40 pages. It follows a woman whose family seem to fall a bit to ruin, and then there is a man from her past who seems both like he contributed to that and he could maybe help her get out of that. So it looks like a bit of a second chance romance. It is a Regency. It's very witty and very, even though it has some heavy stuff in it, it's quite spirited, I would say, in between the characters, which I do tend to like, so I'm really looking forward to it. I read the 2.75 in this series last year, so now I'm going back to the beginning. And then I'm going to flip this. So this is my historical romance, and I'm going to flip back and forth between historical romance and paranormal romance. So once I finish this, I plan on reading Blood Magic by Nora Roberts, and this is the third in the Cousins of Dwyer series. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the story wraps up. I really enjoyed the first two novels, especially the first one, Dark Witch. But I would love to finish the whole stack. So that would be a win. That would be a win. So yeah, and so that's going to be my next paranormal romance once I finish the Courtney Milan. And then in terms of my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird, I go with one that actually is starting with one that's none of those because I just needed an 8-book stack. Anyway, so I'm going to be reading The Vikings of Helgeland by Ibsen. So this is, I imagine, a historical play about Vikings. I'm all in on that. My stack of 9 is 9 plays by Ibsen. So, and I've read 3 already, so I'm doing pretty good on that stack. Plays take me about a week to read, if that. And so, Vikings, it's like, yes. Next up, The Moon of Skulls by Robert E. Howard. This is in the Solomon Kane series, which is my 7-book stack. These are actually more stories. This one's a bit longer. Some of them have been really short, like 12 pages. This one is 50 pages. It took me a little while to find it. It's in a collection called Moon of Skulls, but it's one story within that. Solomon Kane is a Puritan. These are adventure, paranormal, fighting, pretty dark fantasy-ish stuff, and I am loving them. My brother recommended it to me. I'm really enjoying them. So Moon of Skulls definitely looks like there's the moon, there's a skull, probably. I don't know. We shall see what it is like. And I find it helpful with the Stacking the Series to have some shorter works on it, so that was another reason why I picked the Solomon Kane. What else am I picking? Oh yeah, A Hunting Season, and this is the 4th book in the 20-Sided Sorceress series by Annie Bellett. These are paranormal it's urban fantasy. It's urban fantasy because it follows the same protagonist. It follows a woman who is a sorceress and she's friends with shapeshifters, and there's different, it is like a lot of paranormal romance or urban fantasy where there is sort of a longer arc, there is a longer story, a longer mystery, but each of the different books has its own mystery or story to it, and that's actually a format I really do enjoy, and I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I really enjoyed Pack of Lies, which was the 3rd book in the series, and this is the 4th. So I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes. And then next up we have, Warlord of Mars. Check out that cover. Holy crap. By Edgar Rice Burroughs. I think this is actually, so this is a bit of a cheat because looks like it's a cover of a comic, but I couldn't find a cover for Warlord of Mars that I really liked. A lot of them were most of them were a little risque. So I went with this one. And this is the 3rd book in the Barsoom series, which is the John Carter of Mars series, where it's mostly set on Mars and follows an American, and adventures on Mars. Again, there's lots of fighting and adventures and action and stuff, and they're pulp They're pulp, and that's working for me. They do take me a long time to read, surprisingly, even though they're only about 200 pages, but it's okay. It's okay. I love the description of the creatures and the landscape. To be honest, that's one of my favorite parts. And the action is good too, but the action gets a little repetitive. But to say more would be a bit spoilery, so I think I'll leave it there. And then after that, just 3 more titles. Any other 3 titles on my Stacking the Series. I didn't want to pick each and everything because sometimes these depend on what I finished, because I don't want to read sort of like 2 of the same thing at the same time. So I usually bounce back and forth between the Solomon Kane and the Barsoom or the John Carter books, because they are both adventure-y and fighty. And I don't like to read paranormal romance at the same time as each other. So the 20-Sided Sorceress, I like to read in between the romances or when I'm reading historical romance. So it ends up being quite a bit of a dance, but hopefully by the end of it, I will have read lots of books. So I think my TBR ends up being around, I can't remember. I was aiming for 20, less 5 put aside for Alphabathon. I held 5 spots for Alphabathon, and usually my TBR tends to be around 20. And I do tend to read 20 or more titles. They just don't always end up being what's on my TBR. But that's what I hope to read in the month of May. It is a little all over the place. I got cyber stuff and kids fantasy and weird stuff and plays about Vikings. What are you reading in May? I would love to know. And and hopefully this will go well. I have no idea. I just feel like you just can't know these days. But that's what I plan on reading, and I'm really super... Has anyone read any Tim Winton? I really did enjoy Blueback, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And there's another book of his that I want to read as well. And have you seen the film? And have you seen Ip Man? Have you seen any of the Ip Man films? Donnie Yen. Any other Donnie Yen fans out there? Seriously. Guy is amazing. So anyway, that's it. Back on tangent land. So I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you have an awesome month of reading ahead, and we shall see how everything goes as the month unfolds. Thanks so much for watching.